Meteorologist Aaron Tuttle here with you. It is right at 12 o'clock. So thanks for joining me. We're going to do a little Facebook Live here for you, and a YouTube Live, and a Twitter Live. And we're get you caught up on what the weather is going to be here. Lunchtime report, not in the car. Steven is on it. That is correct. So I'm at the home office here. So, I'm with you all. We're all in quarantine together. So this might become a new thing. Who knows? What I have noticed is a lot of the weather guys and gals out there and other TV stations are all having to start to do what I'm doing because they're being forced to do it from home. So it's just interesting to see how they're kind of having to jump on the internet meteorologist version of weather and broadcast it live from their home areas. So I've been doing this for a while, so I'm a little ahead of the curve on that. So thanks you guys for joining me and for supporting me through all this. And it's been a learning experience, getting all the right equipment in place and everything ready to go. So that's just the way our new thing is for at least the next few weeks. All right, so tell you what, let's go ahead and get on with it. First off, thanks for you guys out there on YouTube. Be sure to check in. Sergio, thanks for leaving the chat. Also, you guys on Twitter/Periscope and on my private Facebook page, which you guys can get access to through the description link here. Then on the main page as well. So answer a few questions once I'm finished with the weather aspect. So let's go ahead and jump into it. Everybody should have been notified by Facebook by now that I'm live. See, I usually kind of, tap dance a while, about a minute or so, because not everybody gets notifications right off the bat, and so we're doing it that way. Also, you notice I've got to open captioning at the top of the broadcast. So if you're in a meeting, at work, telecon, or whatever, you can hit the mute button and you can still hear what I have to say and just watch the pretty slideshow. Okay, so let's get on with it, shall we? First thing I want to show you, how about record-breaking heat? Where did this come from, right? So our record here in Oklahoma City is 85 degrees, and the Weather Service is going to try to go for 92. They're going to try to bust it. But you can see the records out here in western Oklahoma are also in the 90s. There's Woodward at 90, Lawton 90, Clinton's at 90, Vernon 92. And we're getting dangerously close, or fun close. Does it have to be dangerously close? No, why not? Can it just be excitingly close? Sure, why not? It's a little taste of early summer. And boy, that changed really quick. So anyway, so there's the big story here for today. The model data doesn't have it quite as warm. Zoom this in for you. So you can see the numbers across the state. But it's got 89 degrees here in Oklahoma City. And if I'm not broadcasting, let me know. My little thing turned red. So to make sure you guys can still hear me. Looking at the feed, so far we're good. Okay, so I'm going to keep going. Okay, so 89 here in Oklahoma City, 91 out west, still mid-80s out east. So this is for the highs here for today based off the computer model data. As we head into tomorrow, same kind of deal. Lots of 80s here over central and western Oklahoma. Some 70s there across the eastern parts of the state. So a little more humid, so the humidity increases tomorrow, which will lower the temperatures. Otherwise, it's going to feel a little warm and humid to you. As we kind of sneak peek on into Saturday, much better. We're back to that drier air mass. We've got upper 60s to near 70 for high. Setting up to be a good weekend day for Saturday. We'll take a look at Sunday in a minute. But I want to get you through the warmness that's coming our way. Now, the actual severe weather concerns today, Storm Prediction Center, they're up in Kansas and points eastward. Tomorrow, they dip down into Oklahoma a little bit. And as we head into Saturday, they have now moved on to the Midwest down to the deep south. And then you can see there is nothing planned in the extended for severe weather after that until next week at this point in time. But you have to monitor these things day to day because obviously in the environment things do change. So let me kill a couple of these and we'll go on to this. So this is a close-up view of Friday. So late Friday evening into early Saturday morning. Norman put out a discussion for a slight risk of severe weather, including large hail and damaging wind. Now, will this change? Yes, it will. They're a little different than the Storm Prediction Center, which has it here across a good chunk of Kansas. And it kind of dips on, like we said, in northern Oklahoma, which includes Oklahoma City metro area, just on the north side of town. And that's just the slight category. Now, if you break down that category, there is a chance of tornadoes in this area. So it does include from Oklahoma City up northward into this region. That's the sweet spot they have highlighted here for now. They only have a 2 to 5% ring, which is a very low probability, by the way. But needless to say, that's where the best indices are coming together in the atmosphere. And then, of course, you got your little wind and hail, which is the same area outlined as before. Let me see. I didn't really read the wording. Just looked at the graphic there, but it's probably going to be the same standard. Cap will prevent most of the storms to develop in the warm sector, yada yada. If the storms can initiate in north central Oklahoma, then those storms should become surface based, with soundings in north central Oklahoma have strong instability, Cape around 3,000, good shear, favorable for supercells with large hail. Any supercell that becomes surface based should also be associated with a tornado and damaging wind threat. Potential for tornadoes is conditional. Should extend eastward across far northern Oklahoma to southeast Kansas. So there you go. So in other words, it's a conditional threat for both the supercell tornado type aspect, meaning it's not guaranteed, it's a low probability, but needless to say, it's out there. All right, so now let's get on into the data. I'm going to show you what's shaking with all that. And let me try this one here. Okay, so this is the morning run of our high resolution data model. And it's got the storms up here in southeastern Kansas, so not much really happening in Oklahoma for today. Pretty quiet. A few showers, looks like, from return moisture tomorrow. This is on Friday, by the way. So some clouds, sprinkles, that kind of deal. Just some moisture surges in during the midday hours. We're kind of cloudy aloft. And as we head into the evening hours, this high resolution model just does not do much. You know, it's got a little something here in Kansas. It tries to produce a couple down here in northwestern Oklahoma. But other than that, the body of the state doesn't see much at all for Friday. And that's it. I mean, and then there's a few more sprinkles here for Saturday morning as the front comes through. Then the whole system's out. So if you look at this one model, it's like, what's the big hoopla? I don't see anything. Well, the models won't always, do well at predicting the storm development. We can look at some, and that's just the one model I showed you. We can look at some of these other what we call CAM models, which are made for severe weather detection. Let's see what they do. Oh, they try to produce a couple. There we go. They don't get them going, though, until close to midnight Friday night north of Tulsa into southeastern Kansas. And those move off rather quickly. All right, we'll go to another one. Same deal here. Let's take a look. There's the storms from later today. And there you go. There's a couple of storms tomorrow. Try to get going around Guthrie and maybe northern Canadian County. There's a few that try to get going around central Oklahoma. They just don't really do much. They're kind of wimpy. Then as we head on into, and this is, by the way, that was in the midday hours. Usually if that happens, they're elevated. They're very small. They don't last very long. So this is what would typically happen in that environment. Just as moisture returns and there's some instability, anything can kind of trigger those above the capping inversion, which will be in place. So they'll be very high based. In other words, clouds will be way up there. And sometimes you get virga out of that situation. All right, so by the time we head, though, into the evening hours, at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, you do see a couple of storms fire up here over north central Oklahoma. So that's kind of where that highlighted area is from the Storm Prediction Center. Because they look at the same type of data when they make their forecasts. Now, here's midnight. It's got a couple of storms still anchored here across central Oklahoma, up around the Tulsa area after midnight. So there you go. There's at least one model out of the bunch that at least trying to produce some storms, and some of those might be supercells. So again, a little wind and a little hail. And if things go just right, we may be looking at a potential tornado or two. Let's see. This model also shows the elevated instability around 1 o'clock in the afternoon for a few pesky showers. Those move off. Let's see what it does in the evening. Nothing. So doesn't have much going on. All right, so let's take a look at the atmospheric profile as to why this will be something to watch for in a conditional nature. And we could do a forecast sounding for that. So here is a look at Friday. Let's go into the 0Z time frame. All right, so this is 6 o'clock on Friday. So we're going to look at what the sounding looks like aloft here in Oklahoma City. Now, what I can tell you is, on this profile, dry as a bone. In other words, not much in the way of good low-level moisture. So these storms typically in that environment struggle quite a bit. And they're usually high base in that environment. But, models aren't perfect. It could be just a little bit extra moisture than what they think, or sometimes be a little bit less. It does have some instability though, up around 2,000, but it also has a pretty good cap in place, around 100, minus 100 or so. Usually means dry here. That's what we call the capped warm sector. Shear's pretty decent though. So the shear's decent for a rotating storm, both in the hodograph and in the overall profile. So it does trigger what we call a marginal potential for a tornado. Weak wind feels though between 2 and 4 kilometers is a weak, which means that updrafts have a tendency to fall apart, which means storms, if they do go, won't be able to sustain themselves very long and keep regenerating, recycling. All right, so let's look at Oklahoma City in the 6 o'clock time frame. We're going to go, let's see, north. This model never produces storms. Also, that's another issue. But we'll go to northern Oklahoma. We'll see what the sign looks like there, see if it's a little different than Oklahoma City, and it should be. And we'll see if there's a little bit better moisture, better ingredients, yada yada. So this model struggles with the moisture, still has it dry. So that's the reason why it doesn't produce any storms. All right. So the problem is, is this model correct? And that's the issue. Probably not, but the other models may not be either. So the truth may lie somewhere in the middle. Let me see. We are 24 hours. It's not going to go out far enough. We do have another short-term model, but it doesn't go out far enough to give me the evening profile here across central Oklahoma. So unfortunately, when I tell you when we talk about tornadoes, you want to be within that 48-hour window because you're just now starting to get these high-resolution data sets in, so you can look upstairs in the atmosphere to really see how the atmosphere should look. We can look at a global model to kind of get an idea. I hate looking at the global models though for forecasting severe weather because that's not really what they're made for. But we'll go ahead and do it just because you're here, I'm here, and why not, right? Okay, so I'll pick northern Oklahoma. So look at the American model. Oh, American model doesn't have. Let me go to this one. Let's see. Okay. We'll just pick northern Oklahoma, random spot, and we'll see what it looks like upstairs. I hadn't seen this yet with this data because I usually don't look at it. I usually just wait for the high-res data to come in. But it's similar to the other model. Interesting. So, very dry, lower levels of atmosphere, which means a lot of these storms will be elevated. Hard to produce, a tornado in that environment. Which you did notice, I didn't point it out in the other one, but in all of these, atmosphere is very saturated in the mid to upper levels. In other words, it's going to be kind of a cloudy, overcast day. So we'll see. You have to get more heating with that sometimes, and a lot of things can go wrong when you're trying to predict severe weather and trying to squeeze out a tornado. It is not easy, guys. I'm telling you. You have to have a lot of ingredients in place. Now, there was one model I do love during severe weather. So here's a look at the Tech 4 kilometer. 3 kilometers, excuse me. And so this is a snapshot at, I believe we went from, there's 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. So to actually try to get enough ingredients going to get something happening here in northern Oklahoma with the little trail, these little red areas you see on the map, those are helicity tracks. So helicity is spin within the thunderstorm itself. That usually indicates a rotating thunderstorm, in other words, like a mesocyclone, which can indicate a track of where maybe the hail fell, maybe the most damaging wind, or in some cases a potential tornado. So when you see a forecast model produces little helicity tracks, that's what it's talking about. So it's saying there's at least enough rotation in this area, the storm will get at least strong enough to try to do some of that. Now, elevated, and then will this mainly be a big hail thing? Sure can. And typically when storms are elevated, it's more of just a hailer than it isn't anything else. In other words, the wind field doesn't quite penetrate down through that inversion layer to the surface. A lot of that's kind of wasted. Tornadoes can't happen in that environment typically, and hail is all you're left with. So we'll see if it just ends up being a few hailstorms in northern Oklahoma moving north and east in the late evening to midnight hour across northern northeastern Oklahoma. That right now would be the easy call in the forecast, and then the rest, unfortunately, we're just going to have to wait until we get some better data coming in for severe weather type potential. I can look at a couple of indices here, and we'll see if anything jumps out at me. And then I'll answer a couple of questions if you have any, and I'll turn you loose. It's not like you got anything else to do. I mean, come on. Let's see here. So I'm looking at the supercell composite, and you're going, what is that? That sounds fancy. Well, it is fancy. It's fancy ingredients that come together that sometimes can indicate the best areas for supercell storms, assuming other things have come into play. All right, so here's Friday in the afternoon. Doesn't have much ingredients coming together, but as we head after dark, ingredients come in a little bit better. Now the reason for that is typically low level jet. In other words, it's like a river of wind that comes in 1,000 or so feet off the ground, kind of speeds up the speed shear. All right, so if you can have good directional shear, you add a little speed shear. It's like adding a little boost. It's like putting a little extra octane in your car. You know, not really, but I just figured I'd throw something out there, try to make it sound similar. It's probably not similar at all, but I'm on the fly. I'm looking for an analogy. That's what hit me. Anyway, so we'll move on to the next interesting parameter, and that would be the significant tornado parameter. So we'll see where the models think that the best potential would be. Now today, if the models had their way, it would be up here in northern Oklahoma, off the charts, for example, for potential for tornado. If I were to plot a sounding for that, it's nonsense. There's no way a tornado would ever form in this, but that's what the model does. So just because that would be ridiculous. All right, I'm not even going to justify that one. So on days where the rest ingredients aren't in place, you can ignore these kind of things, but on the days where the ingredients are in place, they can sometimes provide some value. So going into Friday afternoon, now there's that sweet spot way up here in northern Oklahoma, near the border. I'll click on the bullseye of that one. You know, it's like if you want the worst case of the worst case of the worst case, there you go. And even then, it's got a strong cap in place right here, which means odds are you're not going to get a storm out of that, but at least the moisture down low has actually happened, which is a huge difference. So it's kind of, what that means is kind of a lot of times that's the moisture that comes up along and near a warm front. It kind of comes together, convergence. So you can get like a little area where you get a thin ribbon of moisture, whereas the rest of the atmosphere around it's pretty dry. And that would be your best opportunity to produce a storm. So it may be a situation like that, you know, on Friday afternoon, which means it'd be an isolated storm or two. In other words, not a huge, you know, outbreak or just a ton of them, because there's not much ingredients to work with. We can actually look at that. Let me look at a couple things here real quick. That's the lifting indice. That looks good. Let me go with the shear and cape overlay. Let's see, we said what? Yeah, like a sweet spot around 9 o'clock in the evening in northern Oklahoma from this particular model. Let me see what the dews look like. Okay, go through time here. And, alright, so what happens is we get a little surface low right here. It's called a meso low, alright? It looks like it's running along the warm front, which is like this, that feeds into the low. Alright, so what happens then is you get moisture that rides in from the Gulf of Mexico and congregates right here in this little sweet spot along the warm front and then back in the area below pressure. So sometimes you get conditions just right to where you can get a weakness in the capping layer, and all the ingredients come together in that one little spot, and you can actually get a storm to go. And then that storm would have the best ingredients in the world to work with no other storms to interrupt it, and it can go gangbusters. So a lot of times you get that in the springtime here in Oklahoma. Well, this may be a case for Friday afternoon. If that's the case, then northern Oklahoma, you guys would have to be on the lookout for a supercell storm that gets carried away. And in any other environment, the way things are going, it would be high-based and just a hail threat only. In this one little tiny little area, in this little sweet spot that we're going to highlight here for you, that could be the conditional mentioning that we had earlier of the tornado and damaging wind. So you can see how forecasting is more of an art form sometimes and less of a science, only because sometimes you don't have all the information. And so you have to kind of go back off of history, you got to go back off of what you know in training, and you kind of put it all together and you put out a forecast. So that would be my forecast at this point. Would be an isolated supercell storm breaking out in northern Oklahoma near the surface low and the dry line across the northern counties, and then moving kind of east, kind of hugging the Kansas state line. Will we see others backbuild south? According to this data, we won't. The other, one model run we looked at did indicate that being a potential. So tonight we'll see the new data coming in, and we'll be able to fine tune the forecast, and if we need to add a couple of more, we will. Otherwise, that's what I've got to work with, so that's what I would tell you. All right. So I hope that was helpful, educational. Got you on some thinking about some other things other than, you know, what's currently happening. Let's see here. Guys on YouTube, Richard checking in from Moore. Good to see you. Victoria doesn't want any rain. Well, You might get your wish. We'll see. Let's go to the patrons here real quick. So if you guys had any questions. Yes, LaDonna. It's me. Deb, I'm doing well. Union City Command Center. Chad's in the house. That's hilarious. Right. Only one internet weatherman. Remember, I was coined that as a negative term. The internet meteorologist. That was actually a slang a few years ago. That was an insult. As though a TV meteorologist is so much better. I'm just like, you clowns. I said, first off, I'm a government meteorologist for one. Two, I'm an internet meteorologist and then three, I was a former television meteorologist. I got all three. I'm like, but I go ahead. It's all fun. Jessica loves the heat. Angela's loving it too. Good deal. Hey, Paula. Wes, you're welcome for the update. You too, Judy. All right, on the main page, real quick. Those of you guys still here that had a question, I'm going to scroll up. Not in any particular order. Just kind of glance through the comments real quick. Sasha's late to the party. Oh, good grief, Sasha. You're going to have to watch the replay. Jackie needs closed caption. What do you need closed captions for? Let's see. Kim's going golfing, or no, fishing Saturday. You'll be good. Oh, Jackie's working from home and can't turn the volume up. Gotcha. Well, watch those captions at the top here, and you'll be good to go. All right, Sharon wants to know, am I still going to the Newcastle Christian Church at the end of the month? Negative. That was called off a long time ago. No one's allowed in any congregation more than 10 people. So no, that's not going to happen. I got another talk at a retirement home in the middle of April. That probably won't happen either. So we'll just all play it by ear. Jody, you're so sweet. Yes, I like doing a little weather one-on-one classroom type, if you will. You're welcome, Michelle. And Sharon, you are checking in for more. Gotcha. Rebecca, yeah, you did make it. So I'm going backwards in the comments, by the way. In case you guys haven't noticed, I'm all over the place. I know, you should be loving the temps, Jody. You could be in Canada right now, freezing, with snow coming down. Ashley's not ready for the heat. Whoa. First time, I'm never late. Thanks, Furlough. Janessa, man. Let's see. Juan, you're welcome. Let's see. What else we got? Of course I'm still here for you. When will you update, Nancy? What do you mean when will I update? I just did. Where have you been? That's anything there on radar after Friday. Joe. Okay, so I'll tell you what. Those are still hanging around. Let's do a quick update on Sunday onward. I showed you Friday, Saturday, but I didn't talk about Sunday. So let me do that, and then I'll turn you guys loose. Let me get things set up here in just a second. All right. Okie dokie. Alright, let's see. There's the European model for what it's worth. A little storm action here in central Oklahoma around midnight on Friday, east of the Oklahoma City Metro. Alright, then on Saturday, things, long gone. It's east of us, trailing from Arkansas to Louisiana and Texas. And then as we head on to Sunday itself, looking good. All's quiet. Now, we do have a little storm system coming in for Monday, by the way. So we'll get some rain here. It'll be a chilly rain. If I look at the sounding forecast, for example, I think we're supposed to be in the 50s. Yeah, 56 degrees. So a little chilly rain for Monday. As we head on after that, let me go through here. Looks quiet, 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 quiet. Boy, it's quiet. All up through April 5th on this model. Because we have reinforcing rounds of cold air that come in. So let's take a look at that. We can take a look at how temperatures kind of play with us. So let's see. Let's go to Saturday. So we mentioned Saturday being the 60s near 70. Let's go to Sunday. Same thing, 60s to around 70. Oh, such a nice weekend. Oh, loving it. Chilly rain for Monday, back in the 50s. And then, hey, we're back in the 60s for Tuesday. No freezes, by the way. I've already planted flowers, so see what happens. But I went ahead and went early, even though that you should really hold off at the early to middle of April. But you can get some burlap or something. Let's see what we got here long term. 40s though. You could potentially get a light frost, rather than a freeze, by the way, in early April. So it depends on what the winds are here, but we've got 40s here on the 2nd of April. Yeah, 'cause there's some 30s sneaking in. There's a 32-degree mark right up at the border of Kansas. Otherwise, some freezing temperatures into Kansas and probably some frost here around Oklahoma on the 2nd, so Thursday the 2nd. So if you plant anything, you might have to protect them, water them, or put a little burlap or something in, or they might just be just fine, just for a little light frost. Then we've got 50s again, so it's kind of a chilly, mid-chilly pattern. We're back into kind of the 50s to around 60, so it's actually, I kind of like that weather. Then we're kind of cool at night, chilly at night. Let's see, we're way down there in the 3rd. We're back in the 60s for highs, 70s for highs on the 4th. So there you go. I mean, there's spring trying to just get in here and do what it does best. So there's your long-term outlook all the way up to the 5th of April. All right. Listen, I'm going to get out of here. I got some stuff I got to do, believe it or not. Get back to work. And you're like, work? Yeah, I'm teleworking. So lunch break's over. So I'm going to get back to it, and you should get back to it, all right? Well, thanks for watching. I'll try to do another Facebook Live here tonight and potentially tomorrow at lunchtime, and then tomorrow evening, we'll see how things go for your Friday and see if we can get any of those storms to go. And if it looks like they may become tornadic, I'll let you know. I'll do some live streaming coverage for that, and you can tell all your friends and family to watch that way. You guys have a great rest of your afternoon. Take care.